I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, now streaming only on Netflix.
Burn again, burn again, burn again, ABCs.
Welcome to the Bare Naked ABCs, where there are only two of us today, so we can't fly in a V formation. It would be more like a straight line. You know, most geese migrate south, but a few of them actually do migrate across the Atlantic Ocean. And it's a long flight, but we have someone joining us tonight from England themselves. Welcome, Mil.
Hi.
It's great to have you back again to kind of help and defend Kevin a little bit.
That was what I said when Tracy offered to let me on this show. That was why I wanted to come on this one.
I love it that people are like, we have to take the later songs, we have to take the later albums, we have to take the Snacktime and the Kevin songs in order to defend those people from you, Tracy. I feel like I'm somehow this bad guy. I'm the evil one of the podcast. So speaking of which, today we're going to be talking about Here Come the Geese.
Here come the geese, flying in a V formation. Here come the geese, flying in a V formation.
From the Snacktime album in 2008. And interestingly enough, it is the final song on that album. Reportedly, they've only even played this 5 times live in concert, so it's not even a popular one for them to kind of play in concert, even as a down song, or even during their kids when they went out and they like decided to publicize this for the kids album.
I'm going to guess it's probably because Kevin could not remember all of the lyrics of all the different places that are listed off in the song.
That's true. It's like over and over again. It's like it's one of those repetitive ones that's really hard to do. It reminds me of a lot of, and it's funny because just recently they've been releasing online all of these Andrew Lloyd Webber TV versions or movie versions of his plays online for people to be able to watch on YouTube. And at one point in time, I had the honor of doing Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. And there's a song in there where they say the whole range of colors.
Yeah, I did that when I was like 7 or 8, and I could do all the colors off by heart. But for the other kids, they had them all like at the back of the room above the audience, so the kids would just read them off there, and the audience would never know.
No, it was like for me, that was a really hard. I think it's like 20-something colors, and I'm like, I can't remember the order of all these colors.
I found it quite easy, but they come in little sections. Once you know each section, you just got to know which order it comes in. But
right.
That's the trick. But I even Here Come the Geese, I can't remember all these different places. So.
There must be a trick to having to remember it, but I'm guessing, like you said, that Kevin
probably having it written down. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this song, about the music. I don't have a lot of facts about this song. I tried to look it up as much as possible, but there's very little written about this album in general.
Yeah, I honestly don't have that much about the song. I know a lot about geese and things, but I don't know much about songs.
So why don't I send it over to Aaron real quick for a breakdown.
Breakdown. Aaron's gonna talk about chord structure and time.
He wasn't able to join us tonight, but I do have his notes. So I'm going to pull those up here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Here Come the Geese was recorded at 70 beats per minute. It is in the key of D major, and the chord progression is a simple D-G-A-G, or 1-4-5-4, moving between the major and perfect chords of the key. This progression is repeated throughout the song, but I really like the simplicity, especially the layered instruments, including some lovely Satriani-esque guitar work towards the end, which continue to build and add until the song becomes a beautiful wall of sound. The whole effect is quite ambient and, as Bill and Ted would say, most tranquil. The first thing I noticed, aside from the beautiful piano arpeggios, was Kevin's voice. I wish Kevin had more lead vocal tracks. I feel like he is underutilized as a vocalist. This is, without question, the best of the songs I have heard off Snacktime. I would actually seek this out and listen to this. I'm sure I will at some point. We'll come back to his rating of what he gives Here Come the Geese later on. So, I agree. It is a very serene song.
Oh, yeah.
But it's interesting. It's also, there's some darker notes in this song.
I was going to say, when Aaron says that it's in D major, I was going to say, this song is literally Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds in a major key. They are everywhere, and they are getting under people's feet even at the end. And I don't know if it's actually like that in Canada and America when the geese are there, because by the time they come over here, we tend to only have one or two in a V, so you've got like a dot or a line going on. I don't know what's happening to them between here and there, but they seem to get a bit lost or dead or something. So we don't have this phenomenon of all the geese coming and landing over here to know what this is like.
Well, and so real quickly, I'm going to put in here, we were actually talking with Eric Butterworth, who's a Canadian, and he was telling us his thoughts on this song, because we just happened to be slipping into discussing what this week was. And I'm going to put those in here, what he says about his experiences up there.
Don't go walking in the lawn, though.
It's going to be like the Hitchcock movie Birds, is what you're saying? Geese.
But with geese, just geese.
Yeah, specifically to geese. Yeah.
It's really terrifying if it's Canada geese.
Yeah, those things are...
Oh, they're mean.
They'll wreck you, you hoser.
Don't ever go near them.
They are horrible devil geese.
Devil geese.
Speaking as a Canadian,
Canadian devil geese.
We give them a very wide berth.
Maybe you can explain this to me. Is there something like geese are one thing, and I get that. Canadian geese are extremely mean. From your own point of view, is there a reason that Kevin would write a whole song about geese being everywhere? Is he just being facetious here?
No, because they're everywhere. When they come, they are everywhere.
Is there a geese season?
Yeah, it's not cold. From about right now, I've seen them showing up already in the last few weeks, and then right through to probably November.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're all over the place. They're on the pathways, and bikers and joggers, everybody goes around them, and there's a goose in your pathway, you just go home.
Here in America, though, we don't have that experience, at least not in the part of America that I'm in. I'm in more of a northern part, so you would think the geese coming down, they would be in my area just below Canada more than any, but they come down, and it's only a couple of weeks, and they're flying in V formations, and they'll take over the cornfields, and you'll see them kind of like spread out throughout the cornfields, and there's probably 100 to 200 of them, but it's a very short period of time.
So we get them like all year round, but we get them in very small numbers, and they tend to go where our ducks, geese, swan go. So I live near a canal and a river, and there's always about 50 waterfowl there, and you'll just see like two Canada geese trying to hide amongst all the white geese. Like, we're not different. We're totally not different.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the Canadian ones and wonder like why they're migrating in that direction. Like, it's an interesting direction for them to be going away from everyone else.
Yeah, we don't really get much migration in England. Well, not as much as like America and places, because we're much more temperate. As I think the weather where you are today is proving.
Yeah, no kidding. So it's weird that they would migrate in that direction. I don't know. Especially one or two. Like, you would think that maybe a group of them might migrate that way, because that's, I mean, let's talk a little bit about geese and flying in the V formation. The words of this song.
Yes.
Like, yes, that's the way they fly. And there's a reason that they fly that way. I actually went and did my research about this. And like, as a Mainer, I kind of knew why geese fly that way, but I wanted to make sure I was being accurate. They fly that way mostly because, at least the theory is that it's aerodynamically correct, and that it allows them to get a little bit of a draft kind of going on. So the ones that are in the behind actually get a little bit easier time flying, and then they swap it up. And they don't get as tired as quickly. But the other part also is it allows them to keep track of where everyone is and to make sure they're not losing anyone during that flight.
But I don't know. The ones that come over here, I have to question how effective that method is.
I was going to say, it sounds like the ones that make it over your way, they kind of already got lost.
Yeah, I was going to say there's an XKCD comic that is about geese and their V formation, and it shows all the different ones and their different. Well, it's kind of a funny version, they're different functions, but there's one goose that's kind of flying off in a different direction, and it's labeled Kevin of all things. I'll send you the link to the comic that you can put in the liner notes. And like, if you hover text it, it's like the Kevin the goose is saying like, "Hey guys, I got a great idea for a migration," and he's just flying off over there like, "Damn it, Kevin." Every time I see a flock of geese and there's one flying in a different direction, I'm always like, there's always a Kevin in every flock.
Oh, yeah.
That's become a phrase of mine, so.
There's a Kevin in every flock.
Every flock.
This song reminded me a lot of a movie as well. There's a movie that was done a while ago called Fly Away Home back in 96, I want to say. So before this song actually came out. About this eco person that decided that he was, that a swampland had been paved over or something had been done with it. And I didn't watch the movie in a long time, so I don't remember. But Anna Paquin, I think, was in it. Jeff Daniels, I think, too. But they took the geese and created this like glider, and they guided these baby geese to the correct place to get them to know how to migrate. So, and it's actually based on a true story. And that kind of reminded me of this a little bit when he was talking about that. But yeah, my take on this song is he's being very farcical and facetious with his lyrics here about the geese. Like, I can't imagine them being in the high school halls and in the shopping malls. I mean, I think he starts out with being very honest about about that, but then I think he's like, okay, let's just see how far I can really take this.
Yeah.
But yeah, with it being in that D major key, like, it's there's something dark in behind this. Like, what I've had a couple of people now say to me, like, oh yeah, it's like the Birds, but on Snacktime. And I'm like, yeah. That actually feels about right.
The music almost feels like that kind of the Flight of the Valkyries kind of feel of like it's all coming at you sort of feeling.
Yeah. But it's funny because it's just a slow song, this serene song that has this very ominous tone to it.
Yes, you don't know until it's too late and they're everywhere.
And I love the fact that, like, in the beginning of what you think the song is going to be, and what, like, he starts off the song saying the radio stations are saying the geese are coming.
Mm.
Look up in the sky, they said on the radio station.
And then at the end, after all these lines where they're everywhere and you feel like this, it's almost like this invasion, the line that he comes back to of
Watch under your feet, they said on the radio station, here come the geese.
like, it has this very different feel. So they've
Yeah.
twisted it a little bit at that point.
Mm.
I kind of like that. I like the way that he's doing that with that song.
Yeah, I've always felt that he was kind of making something funny out of it like that. Like when I drew something for Kevin that had a lot of like little bits of his songs on it, and I did one that was his Comes the Geese, and I drew like I think 5 geese walking down the street in like leather jackets and gang bandanas with like a knife in their feathers, and one of them had a ghetto blaster on their shoulder that was blasting out like badass mother pluckers, yo. So
I love that.
That was what the song made me think of when I tried to represent it in a little image. But
No, I think that's pretty accurate, though.
I can just see like geese, like if you know what geese and they're like, they're the kind of bird that would kind of walk down a back alley like clicking their feathers at you, trying to get
Trying to click their feathers, but it won't click. They're trying.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like, if you know, like geese, a lot of their power mostly comes from their intimidation techniques, because they're very intimidating animals.
Yeah, if you come anywhere near them, they are going to throw their wings up. They're going to like come at you full speed, honking as loud as they can. But they can't, like, it will hurt you if they snip you, but it's not going to do any major damage.
They're not that strong. No, if you want something that is like a goose but is actually dangerous, then you get a swan, because that is a dangerous version of a goose.
But they're pretty, supposedly, you know.
Yeah. They're quite intimidating. I had one fly over my head like a goose normally does, and it was very strange to have a swan flying over because they're much bigger and they fly much lower.
So musically, I could be off, and I wish Aaron were here so I could ask him this. The piano is hitting on interesting notes. It's hitting on the 1 and the 3 instead of on the 2 and the 4, which I would have expected. And maybe that once again gives it a little bit of that ominous kind of feel. But yeah, it's hitting on the 1 and the 3 instead. In other words, those are the harder notes that it's kind of planking on. And the beat itself is doing something interesting where it's a 4/4 beat, but if I'm hearing it correctly, I'm only hearing Tyler on the 1, 2, and 3 beat, and then there's nothing on that 4th beat. It's there, but it just is absent.
Here
Yeah, it really, you hear mostly just the piano. You don't really hear or focus on the other instruments very much unless you really pay attention in the song. It's almost entirely Kevin, this song.
Yeah, no, the other ones are very much just kind of filling the background and supporting, and that's about it. And I think that's the other thing that makes it kind of ominous, is that it starts off with this very serene sound with Kevin on the piano.
Yeah.
But then I think it's in the second verse, I could be wrong. Then in comes Tyler with the drums, and they're a fast drum. So it's really interesting that it's kind of opposite of what Kevin's kind of doing with the piano.
It kind of all swells towards the end at that point, I guess, is, the geese coming closer, perhaps, that kind of feeling as, they're starting to revive.
And then they overwhelm everything.
Yes.
And you had mentioned before, like, Kevin does this really great job with music of really kind of painting. It's almost like someone had pointed out earlier this week. His music is like a haiku, in that it's not going to describe a scene in details. It's going to paint a watercolor picture in this haiku type way that's going to give you a feeling about what he's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And I think he does a really great job with that with this song.
It's a short song, but it's a children's song, it's only got to be short and focus on one thing, and for that it's an interesting song, for literally just being about geese migrating.
Now, have you heard any of the live versions of this online?
Probably. I probably have maybe heard in one of the Snacktime ones. I'm thinking, because I've listened to almost every live recording on BNL HTTP. I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's a really cool one. I don't know if it's on BNL HTTP, but I know it's on. I'll be putting it in the liner notes this week. It's interesting because in the song itself, the backup harmonies are off-centered and they're in a weird chord, and it almost sounds disharmonic.
Flying in a V formation.
When they've done it live, it's probably the most beautiful harmonies I've ever heard with them together live. And it's not that disharmonic kind of feel, like they are blending beautifully in that live version, differently than on the album.
Flying in a V formation.
Yeah, it's interesting then perhaps they do that naturally, but they chose to make it slightly out of sync on the album for effect, perhaps.
Yeah. And maybe they just can't help themselves when they're live.
Yeah, I can imagine with such musicians that it's probably actually hard to be dissonant.
I don't have a lot to say about this. It's a very short song, so there's not a ton to say about the song itself, I don't think.
No, I mean, a lot of what is in there is like it repeating over and over at the end, but it's this, it's the same line. There's not...
And so I have the kids' ratings. I'm gonna throw in here the kids' ratings. So Ben, Bella, what do you think about this song? All right, Ben. So we're talking about "Here Come the Geese." What were your initial thoughts of the song?
It wasn't very good to me.
What was one thing you did like about the song?
A word I had never heard before.
What word was that?
Boulevard.
Boulevard? So you liked hearing a new word?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So what does the word boulevard mean?
It's another word for street.
Okay, good job. You learned something from the song. What would you change about this song?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's much to change. I mean...
If you could redo the song, what would you do differently?
I'd make the music more upbeat.
Okay, so you would like it to be more upbeat?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think that Kevin Hearn, who wrote the song, was trying to... What do you think he was trying to tell us?
He was trying to be creative.
He was trying to be creative? Okay, what do you mean?
Just make a creative song.
Okay. All right. So 0 to 5, what would you rate this song? How many geese would you give this song?
Probably 1.
1 goose? Yeah, 1 geeses? Thank you, bud. Isabella, what was your first impression of the song?
It was a little bit... It was really fast.
Okay. What was one thing that you liked about this song?
It was really creative.
What's one thing that you would change about the song?
Nothing.
Is there anything that you didn't enjoy about the song?
That it was going really fast.
What do you think that the song was about?
Geese when they're flying in a V formation.
You got that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the chorus was definitely there. What was the verses about?
I can't remember.
Okay. And so 0 to 5, what would you rate this song?
2.
Okay. Thank you for your honest opinion. They did not like this song that much.
I can see that, yeah. I can see it not being like a children's, it's not compared to the other more cheerful Snacktime songs.
No, and I think the part that really got them was the repetition. Like the piano that's playing is very, it's very upfront, but it's also very repetitious.
Yeah, perhaps you need to be an adult to appreciate the building quality of it.
I think so. And I think the other piece of it was that that repeating at the end. Like, my son...
I find that a bit long. I could have done with perhaps one or two less loops.
It would have made me happier, but then it would have been a shorter song. But I would have liked it if he got even more over the top with
intense, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other part I don't think my kids liked about the song was the ominous feel. Like, I sat there, and the way the ominous feel kind of pulled out was I had to think about this. Like, my kids had a very actually strong reaction to this song, as you just heard. When he dislikes something, he dislikes it very strongly. So he very much disliked the song. He gave me his report, and then the idea was to listen to it again because we're out of school right now. So I was like, okay, this is music class. We're going to learn a little about these. And he had a very, let's say, energetic reaction to the idea of having to listen to the song again. It had nothing to do with music class so much. Like any other song he would have loved. He absolutely did not want to ever hear this song ever again. So, and I, sorry, Kevin, that you felt that way. I get where Kevin was trying to go with this song. I just don't think it worked for the kids' album. So to speak.
You couldn't really put it on an adult album, but I get that it's not perhaps a children's song, but perhaps the kids are meant to have fallen asleep listening to the album by the final song, or...
Maybe.
You kind of hope that, because if it's the final song and that's what it leaves the kids feeling like terrified about Geese coming, that's not the best way to leave off an album.
And I think Kevin was trying to go for that mix between not being terrified, but just kind of giving it that ominous kind of feel and being gentle and serene. And as an adult, it works. As a kid, I don't think it worked for them.
No. I mean, it would have been worse if they put it at the start of the album and they had the kids scared for what the rest of the album was going to be.
That's true. I would have thought this would have been a good mid-album. If you're going to have it in there, put it in the middle of the album. I don't think it's a good finisher.
It could have kind of break up the energy of the... I mean, I guess they have Bad Day in the middle that breaks up the energy, so you perhaps could have put it next to Bad Day. But...
And it would explain why they're having a bad day.
I was listening to someone, he's an American and he lives in a city or whatnot, and he does a podcast called The Anthropocene Reviewed, where he reviews facets of the human-centered planet on a 5-star scale. So he reviewed Canada geese one week, and he was talking about how he likes seeing Canada geese because when they come to his city, it makes him feel like a part of nature has come to this urban environment. And I felt, as someone, I live right out in the middle of the countryside, like a really rural farming community. For me, Canada geese are a very urban creature because they're not afraid of humans. If you come out here, every single other animal's afraid of humans. So I was kind of curious. Americans have a very different understanding of what constitutes rural and urban, in my experience.
I don't think I see any geese in the urban type area. So, and like if I were asked like whether they're urban or rural, I would think that like my definition would be like, where would I see them? So in terms of like where I would see them, they're very much a rural type thing because I would see them in the fields and in the ponds. They really don't infest a lot of our urban areas. That being said, their personality is much more an urban personality. I think I agree.
Yes, they're like those squirrels that come right up and out of your hand. Like, but I mean, because I live near a canal, we always have geese on the canal anyway, like white geese. Whatever. I don't know if you have white geese over there.
No white geese here. So.
That's strange. I mean, we also, because I live in a farming community, the other day, like we were meant to be recording this podcast episode last weekend, but that day I actually had to herd some geese that had gone out of one of the farms onto the road. So because all the farm workers have, the farm's in lockdown, so all the animals are struggling. But anyway, that was quite odd having to herd geese off the road because the cars were coming and just honking at the geese, and the geese were honking right back at the cars.
And now that you say that, now that you've jarred that, like, yes, on farms we would find white geese. I think that's the only place I can think of that we would naturally find white geese around here.
That's strange because on our farms they're not white geese. We have beige geese. I don't know what kind of geese they are. When I was drawing that thing for Kevin, I looked at like 5 different varieties of geese to put in it, but I don't remember what they are now.
I guess that's another interesting point is like in singing about this, he never calls them Canadian geese. We automatically assume that's what he's singing about, and my guess is that is what he's singing about.
I mean, I don't know if the others do V-shaped flying. Like, the white geese tend to live in pairs, so I don't know that they migrate in big groups. And the beige geese, I think, are domesticated geese, and we have like tons of people have geese as pets around where I live because they're good guard pets. So those don't fly off anywhere.
Well, and I think it's a matter also, I think, of like if you see a lot of that type of animal in your area normally, you wouldn't call them like a Canadian geese. There's a lot of geese in Canada that are Canadian geese, probably more than anything else. And so to them, that's geese. And then everywhere else we call them Canadian geese. But
true. They're always very obviously different to me when they come over here. Yeah. they remind me a lot of all the American tourists that come to where I live, honestly, because they're loud and they just like force their way in. But anyway.
Well, that sounds like us.
Yeah.
So my question to you, Mil, is how many geese do you give this song?
I give it 3.5 geese, and I feel bad for the half geese that I cut in half. I don't know which half of the goose it is, if it's the front or the left or what. But, it's a good song.
It's an egg. You gave it an egg.
Yeah, it's a gosling. It's a good song, but there's not enough of it. At the same time, there's also too much of it at the end. The end is too repetitive, but the first part, all it really is that one list of where all the geese are. There's not much else said about the geese, which I would have been perhaps interested to hear more story or something. That's not, I guess, Kevin's style, so.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that.
Yeah.
Before we get to mine, why don't we get to Aaron?
Oh, yes.
I get the feeling I'm going to be the hater this week. So let's go to Aaron. Aaron gave this. I give Here Come the Geese a very well-deserved 4 out of 5 geese. So he says, I get why you wanted me here for this. It's a really good tune, and I normally really hate on the kids' tunes. So, yeah, it's too bad that he wasn't able to join us, because maybe he would have been able to sway me some more, because my rating is not going to be anywhere near Aaron's. And I think part of that is the album it was on and what the point of the song was. I was asking my kids, okay, what do you think the point of this song was? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I can see there's not a... It's a description, but there's not a point.
Right. And I think that it, like the other songs, they would probably be able to answer that with. This one they couldn't. And I think that for that reason, it doesn't hit the mark. It doesn't get where he was trying to go with this song. It's a really pretty song. And I think to go to sleep to, I could do that. I'm going to give this a 2. It's not a very good V formation. It's a vector. And the front goose is going to get really, really tired, which is what happens to me when I listen to this song. And I don't enjoy the song. Like there are kids' songs on my iPod so that I can listen to it in the car with the kids. And I don't have, even before having my kids listen to it this week, it's not been on the playlist. Now I can see why, and I had good instincts on that one because they don't enjoy it. And so it will remain off it. I think Kevin's an amazing musician, and actually in talking with you, Mil, like I have come to appreciate the ambiance type direction to kind of go with listening to his music and kind of just listen and enjoy for the listening. That's not what I get from this song. And I think that if he had taken this and put it on an adult album, maybe and made it a little bit more outlandish than it already is, and really delved into the darkness but serenity of it and really like gone full bore into it for an adult album, I might have enjoyed this more.
I mean, if, in that case, like his most recent album, his instrumental album, Common Sense, it had very much that balance between a lot of sort of serene ambience and some darker hints of it. So it does feel like you could have made an adult version of it and put it on that album when you say that.
Yeah. I think it would have fit better there. But I think they were also playing around a lot on this album, trying to see what different things they could do. And so from that direction, I could see why it went on.
Yeah, although a lot of the other children's songs have a very similar feel to them. Like you can kind of, it's hard to even tell some of the parts. They got the very same instrumentation and like rhythms and stuff. But this one definitely felt like what you'd call it, like that after dinner mint cleanser, palette cleanser kind of feel. Yeah. Even if it misses the mark, I think that's what they were going for by putting it at the end of the album.
Yeah. Now, if you want to hear something better, I like what you had just mentioned, actually, Mel. I'm going to use that for the appearance this week because I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly, I'm betting, but it's Karma Sense, correct?
Calm and Sense.
Calm and Sense.
Calm and Sense. CALM and then sense like the coin. So it's meant to be a pun on common sense.
Right.
Tyler came up with it, apparently. So.
Of course, Tyler did. And it really is. It's a beautiful album to just kind of sit back and listen to. And I think that it accomplishes with that album what he was really trying to get with this album, like you said, or with this song.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised you listened to it, actually. I didn't think you liked Kevin enough to listen to it.
You have really turned my way of listening to Kevin around. Like I like, it's not normal. Like for me, it's not my typical, but I like to challenge myself and put myself out there a little bit anyways. And it's pretty good. I mean, it's not something I'm going to listen to on a normal day, but if I'm just trying to just kind of relax while I'm driving, then it totally fits in. Yeah.
Have you listened to any of his other albums? Or
I love his Thin Buckle albums too. So
okay. At some point, I really want to get onto like doing a Benedict side catalog ABCs.
We may someday get around.
I mean, they've had to postpone their album that was supposed to be coming out this spring, so you've got to bought yourself a few more months of songs.
Yeah, well, that's good because we need it. So for this week, we were talking a lot today about geese, and they fly south for the winter, probably because it gets so cold. And we know why it gets so cold, because the sun up here in the northern part of the world almost never comes out. As a matter of fact, at the northern extreme in Canada and Alaska, it never comes out for like days. It's like I don't know, it's like hidden. Maybe the geese are fleeing this hidden sun. But you know what? Next week, we're not going to flee the hidden sun. We're actually going to talk about that as we rage against the dying of the light and talk about hidden sun.
Interesting choice of rage considering what the song's like, but
that's true. It's been great having you on again this week, Mel. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
For joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I love your facial expressions as you see me delving into the how can I blend in for next week. Have a great week. Stay safe over there.
Yeah, you too.
And everyone at home, please stay safe as well. And we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, that was fun. Don't forget, no regrets, except maybe one.
To celebrate joining Pantheon Podcasts, Rock Camp, the podcast, the official podcast of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, is giving away a guitar signed by Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, Marty Friedman, formerly of Megadeth, and legendary shredder Zakk Wylde, plus our rockstar counselors like Vinny Appice, Monty Pittman, and more. To enter to win, simply follow, rate, and review our podcast on your preferred platform, and that's all you have to do. For more information, go to rockcamp.com/podcast.